We know there's gold on the property. The best indication for gold is gold, but we're trying to add size to that strike length potential. We have a bunch of holes that need to come back from Randy's, which were drilled on the north side. After this plant maintenance, we'll go back to the south where we had one of our first trench samples, which was 5 meters at around 36.7 grams per ton. This is a proper system that we can finally drill test. But the high grades of 80 grams, 100 grams, 25 grams, 72 grams shows quite some promise.
Today we're having a chat with Oscar Louzada, CEO, and Rayiez Bhoelan, VP of Exploration of Sranan Gold. Gents, great to have you on the channel again. Lots of exciting updates to go through, a second drill rig, an extensive drilling campaign for the new year. But before we dive into all that, Oscar, why don't we start with a short and sweet summary of what Sranan Gold is all about for anyone watching who might not be familiar?
Yeah, of course. Afternoon, Stan. So we started drilling at Randy, which is one of the targets at the Tapanahoni or on the Tapanahoni project in August last year. We've done a bit over 8,000 meters so far, and we started the second rig last week at Poeketi, which is on the opposite side of the river, where we are currently going through a initial 5,000 meter program. We also have the Lavatino concession, which is a bit further south to us. It is on the same trend as where Miata and Founders are operating. It's the Central Guyana Shear Zone, which we're looking to start working on somewhere in the next 2 months. So there's lots of stuff to do this year. We're planning an additional 7,500 meters at Randy, and then the initial 5,000 at Poeketi. And then as soon as the Rayiez and his team are ready, we're very keen to start drilling some holes at Lavatino.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Oscar, for that great introduction. Rayiez, why don't we dive a bit deeper into the updates? Oscar already started hinting at it. There's a second drill rig now coming online at Poeketi. Can you outline what it's going to do there and what it's targeting?
Stan, the second drill rig is targeting basically the 1 kilometer surface expression of mining at the Poeketi Trend. Just to remind you, this is the area where in May last year we took a lot of rock chip samples and grab samples that had some high grades, and we finally have a drill rig on that target, and we are looking to execute our 5,000 meter program and basically test the structure, the fault-filled vein structure, and the mineralized shears that we've been able to map in some of the walls, and mostly from the workings from the small-scale miners. And this is exciting. We'll be testing something that has a strike length of at least 1 kilometer. What is simultaneously happening right now is that we have crews working in the extensions of Poeketi pit, which is basically what we call Northwest Poeketi. And that trend is part of the zone that we flew over when you were here. It's where I took the shear sample, and this was this last year. So this is a trend of 2-3 kilometers that we're investigating and mapping and sampling, and we've already seen some indications of sulfides in some of these quartz veins and shear zones in some of these gullies, which are being sent to the lab as we speak. So we're unlocking basically the northern part of the Randy Poeketi Trend with an additional 2-3 kilometers. And then also to our west, there was a release where we kind of showed our targets. We have the West Poeketi Trend, which is close to the contact with the granites, which are also being mapped and sampled as we speak. So there's a lot going on. We're going to have a really busy year. And at Randy's, we're going to have an additional 7,500 meters, especially extending towards the south. And yeah, exciting and quite a challenge this year.
That is very exciting. And of course, you highlighted us being there. For anyone watching, there's an extensive site visit documentary we did. It's about an hour, very in-depth on the project, explaining all these different targets that Rayiez is going through. So we'll put the link in the description. But Rayiez, perhaps you can, take us through a bit deeper detail what has already been done at Poeketi, because you outlined there's artisanal workings there. You've taken samples from those artisanal workings, even quite deep underground. So you're quite certain the gold is there. And now it's really just about proving how much and how large and what the intercepts are like with drill bit, isn't it?
Yes. So this what we were able to sample last year, Stan, is so this 1 kilometer trend where you have all these different pits stacked up. And this was part of a gold rush in 2020-21, where a lot of these boulders and pieces of the fault-filled vein with visible gold were mined. And at some point, allegedly, there were 4,000 people walking around in that area. We've been able to map and sample parts of it. because everything that was basically at surface or was basically mined out. So we could only channel in some of these walls. But the importance of the drilling is we will be able to assess the width and the strike extension of this mineralization and have some dimension to it, rather than some of the grab and rock chip samples that we've been able to take at surface and some of them in some of these underground workings. But the high grades of 80 grams, 100 grams, 25 grams, 72 grams shows quite some promise. And just the size of all these pits stacked together, we can see the trend in the magnetics, we can see the trend in the LiDAR. We see the extension of shear well beyond the Poeketi pits, where we flew over, and also recently, I think yesterday even, some of the field crew brought back some, very sheared basalt with sericite and sulfides. So we know the system extends. And as we know, this Randy Poeketi trend is also part of a bigger trend. That is striking across the whole property. So this drilling will basically assess the width that we're looking for, because any other technique that we've used in the past, we haven't been able to assess how wide the system can be. But now we're at the point where it needs to be drill tested.
Yeah, very, very exciting. And like you sort of outlined, this is truly becoming very rapidly a multi-kilometer trend that you're chasing here. And of course, when you look at parallels in the region, not every part of that is as thick or as high grade, but parallels in the region, of course, would at some places hide significant amount of ounces.
Yes, and also what we have here is that the strike is a bit different. We're a bit more west-northwest, because these trends typically follow, or they are concordant to the contact with the big batholiths. So our drilling direction is optimized to hit that. This is a same west dipping type of shear zone. So we're excited because we see a lot of indications of more brittle deformation, more veining, and more alteration. So this is a proper system that we can finally drill test.
And Oscar, what is the status on the ground right now with the second drill rig turning?
Well, lots of activity, obviously. 47 people in camp. The rig that was at Randy's is now going through planned maintenance. So it's being dismantled, serviced, and then put back together, which will take a week or two.
And the drill rig at Poeketi is turning at full speed?
Yes, we're turning at full speed. Right now we have a drill move going on, so we'll be well underway on our second hole soon.
So Rayiez, how should we think about the cadence of catalyst going forward? There's still, I believe, some assays we're waiting for from Randy's?
We have a bunch of holes that need to come back from Randy's, which were drilled on the north side. After this plant maintenance, we'll go back to the south, where I want to take people back down memory lane, where we had one of our first trench samples, which was 5 meters at around 36.7 grams per ton. So there's a big zone in the south that we can also that we will drill test. So basically, we're working this structure on both ends, towards the southeast and towards the northwest. And we know there's gold on the property. The best indication for gold is gold, but we're trying to add size to that, strike length potential, and we're doing that on both sides.
Excellent, Rayiez. And of course, you already started hinting at this throughout the interview, but the 12,500 meter planned for drilling for 2026, how are you planning to allocate that, and the cadence throughout the year? How should we think about that?
So we have a better understanding now of the structure at Randy's. So we are targeting some of these northwest plunging ore shoots, and we will be moving around basically along that shear zone and test it towards the south. So initially we actually added 2,500, but we've added more holes, and then an additional few holes in the south. So we will shift a bit. I mean, imagine if we had started drilling Poeketi, which is, we've decided the first 5,000 that we had planned, and it proves to be more exciting. We can easily shift some of that footage towards the Poeketi target. So we have to be flexible a bit. But the overall planning is to drill around 12,500. Maybe it's going to be 15 if it's really exciting. But we keep it open, but that's basically the plan for now. And it probably will change in a few months.
Yeah, and of course the switching in between, like you outlined earlier, logistically very easy to do, especially as Poeketi is literally right next door to the base camp.
Yes, it's in walking distance, so less strain on our logistics, and probably will help us to get some footage faster.
Well, hopefully we'll see some incredible results from there, but you just got to keep keep doing this game of drilling holes into the eventually in a system this large, you should find something big.
Yes, exactly.
Excellent. All right, gentlemen, thank you so much for the update. We'll keep our fingers on the pulse on this channel.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Stijn.